Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Harrisburg City Council legislative session. It's Thursday, July 6, 2017. I'm calling this meeting to order at 6:20, and we apologize for the lateness, but we did have to go over a couple of issues and pieces of legislation at the caucus table. Mr. Petrosky, please do the roll call.
Mr. Allett.
Present.
Mr. Baltimore. Ms. Daniels.
Here.
Ms. Hodges.
Present.
Mr. Johnson.
Here.
Mr. Majors.
Here.
Ms. Williams.
Here. And Mr. Baltimore is excused for this evening. Moving on to the invocation, Ms. Hodges.
Thank you, Madam President. I would just like to send condolences to the Hillcrest, Crummell, Summerford, Chris, and Quarles family, and any other family in the Harrisburg region who might experience loss during this holiday season. Can we just have a brief moment of silence? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hodges. Moving on to the Pledge of Allegiance, Mr. Allett.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Allett. Moving on to communications, we have none this evening. We're moving on to courtesy of the floor. I would ask that you come to the mic, and we are going to be strict with the 2 minutes, and I apologize for that, but I'm very, very tired. We were here at 11 o'clock last night. So anyone at this time would like to come to the mic, please do so. And I'm going to start with to my left this time. No one at the left? Okay. In the middle?
Good evening. I'm Dan Snowden, and I'm from the Bellevue Park, East Harrisburg area. And I'd just like to bring to your attention a matter that I may have shared with you previously. I just want to give you an update. The matter with the Scotts and my neighbor, Ms. Barbara Cox, it hasn't gotten any better. In fact, it's gotten worse because she's being threatened constantly by the Scotts for no apparent reason at all. She's simply minding her own business. She can't even cut her grass, shovel snow, or do much but anything on her property without the Scotts coming out and basically cursing her out and threatening her with violence. So I just thought I'd like to bring that to your attention, that this matter has to be resolved at some point, and it's not just me that's saying this. There are other people in the neighborhood who are saying the same exact thing. So I would appreciate it if the local government at all levels would actually provide some assistance to Ms. Cox, because she certainly does need it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And let me be very honest with you. We've been dealing with Ms. Cox for the last 2 or 3 years myself. I suggested to Ms. Cox that she need to take the necessary steps to go to the district justice. But now, since we have the neighborhood legal dispute, is anyone here from the neighborhood legal dispute? Well, we will give you a card and the information, Mr. Petrosky. We'll see him after the meeting and get the information from him and give that to Ms. Cox, because I think at this point, everyone in the city of Harrisburg has been out to see Ms. Cox to try to deal with that situation, from the mayor to myself to the chief to Mr. Johnson and about 2 or 3 of our council members.
Pardon me, President Williams.
Sure.
Mr. Snowden, hello. I'm a neighbor as well. I have personally been to her property on several occasions. We have all suggested that if it's getting to the point where she feels a physical threat of violence against her, then she may need to look at reaching out to our district justice. Again, we are more than willing to help. I know the Neighborhood Resolution Dispute Settlement Group, we will get you their card and their information. But like I said, we've all been involved and want to help, but there are certain steps that are out of our purview that may need to be taken for her to hopefully get some resolution so that both of the neighbors can live in peace.
Okay. But after the meeting, would you please get that information from Mr. Petrosky? If you don't get it this evening, you certainly call tomorrow morning, and he will be available to get that information from him. Thank you very much. Anyone else in the middle, please? To my right, please.
Good evening. I'm Cheryl Thompson, and I live at 12 South 19th Street. I've been a resident of the city of Harrisburg for almost 40 years. Where I live, has been a peaceful place. We have worked well with the city concerning different activities. But in the last 6 months, I have had several incidents that have really frightened me. I'm used to going in and out of my home without any problem. But 2 weeks ago, we had a shooting incident right behind my home at 8:30 in the morning. I couldn't believe it. 5 shots were fired. We were blessed. The policeman came immediately, but of course, the people who were there left. They don't live in our neighborhood. But part of the problem is the clearing out of one section of town, and we're getting people in our section. Landlords are not being held accountable. They don't do anything. They just put the people in to these apartments or rooms, and then they leave us to deal with it. And we've been working hard with the city. But the most important thing that happened was last night, my husband and I had just returned from being out of town. There was shooting at 12:30. Another 5 or 6 shots fired, people running. We didn't call the police because, of course, we couldn't see anything. But I'm going to ask that the police can be more actively involved in our area. Even though we're part of Allison Hill, we need patrolmen either to walk the beat or ride up and down the street occasionally, and maybe a little bit in the evening. And I'm talking about 12, after 12. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else to my left?
Ronald Johnson, the chair of the Neighborhood Square Watch Group. Ms. Thompson is one of my neighbors, and the shooting actually was last Monday in the morning. I was at the doctor's, and my phone started blowing up. I had to leave my doctor's appointment. And so we've been working with the city for decades, and it seems that our community has been left out of the Harrisburg City Plan and everything else. And we're at a loss because we don't even have a police presence in the community. And hence the letters that I brought some letters down last week. We hurried up and drafted them up because I said, you know, it's important that, you know, there's people that needs to see these letters, get these letters. So I was gonna read this letter, but I think that Ms. Thompson covered it all for me. And, you know, all of our neighbors are in their 80s now, and some are at retirement age, and all they want to do is be able to live the rest of their days in peace, and we are getting none. And there's a whole bunch of absentee landlords that, you know, we know there's laws and ordinances on the books because I'll be following everything. And, you know, this is not my first time coming down here when I have an issue. Normally, I try to handle things on my own, but when I need help, I'll come right here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Good afternoon, I'm Dave Schumann. I know you basically know me, I'm 210 Her. There's something that I had posted for next door, and this is a month ago. I purchased 35 units and I was going to share my plan, but time was too tight because my wife and I went to the Indy 500 and stayed for 3 weeks. I had installed 4 units in the alley behind us, 1 in my driveway, 2 in the backyard. Along with my son came with water to water the plants in the yard. We come home and things were just fine, and I know why. Okay, my eyes are on you. It's time for us to move security lights onto our alleys, backyards, anywhere you want to make you feel more secure. The cost unit is $40, and this Friday evening is open house at 210 Her Street for you to see in action along with me to share of how to install. Also, I will come to install the units on the day of Sundays from 10 a.m. to 2:30 as needed. Today, I will be going to, which was yesterday, I was going to City Council meeting to share this plan and also going to Zero tonight. I've been living in 43 years in the Burg. We need to stop the insecurity and to take our blocks back and bring some shalom. Come on down and let's do it.
What's 210 what?
Okay? I have 35 units that are left. and they're $40.
What's your address again? Your address?
210 Her. I'm right next to Midtown Tavern, and it's been very important with the alleys that are coming and going in my neighborhood because where the dealings are going on and this and that, so, okay? Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you. Thank you for your courtesy and let me speak. I, too, live at 1901 Market Street.
Can you state your name for record, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Jane Buckwack, 1901 Market Street. And I am concerned with the neighborhood because a lot of activity. Now, I talked to Captain Moody, and I'm now going to be hooked in with Crime Watch PA because we have now installed our third security camera, which I can feel be beneficial. What we'd really like to see is more police presence. Coming off a Market and turning right onto 19th Street, I call it driving by, because they'll stop and they'll buy. It's pretty well known. You know, I mean, if I'm really bored, I just sit there and watch it on the security cameras, but I'm not that bored. But we need to see a little bit more police presence and, you know, a little bit more community policing. So it's okay if the police drive down the street. What's really okay, if they see some of the neighbors sitting on their porch, to stop, sit on the porch with them and have an iced tea. You know, we want to support the city and we want to support the police. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello again. Khaldun Rashid, 2400 block of, can you hear me? 2400 block of North 7th Street. I agree crime is a problem in the city. I remember one time we had police substations situated all over the city, maybe relocating some of them, and there used to be a big police RV substation van that went around, you know, when all the drug dealers used to post up on the corners and everything, and they had the gang wars back in the 90s. Well, that might be something to look at. Anyhow, what I'm concerned about is the new cars needed by city codes. I mean, my understanding is I think like, was it 3 new city codes employees were hired by the city? But what's going to happen to the old used cars? I'm curious about that. But something more importantly, and I guess this is addressed to Mr. Johnson here. As you know, I do some citizen codes inspecting. And right up the street on 2nd and Walnut, between 2nd and Walnut and Locust, there's the Metro Bank, Dunkin' Donuts, dry cleaners, rooming house, and the Sandwich Man. None of the businesses have a rear exit or a fire escape. In fact, the whole entire back is walled up for the entire block. And you know, I wanted to write this up, but before I do, I kind of like wanted to get with you and see what's going on, why it's been like that, and no one said anything all this time. So that kind of like is a fire safety hazard issue that really needs to be looked at, because there are people living upstairs in rooms, and there's no way out in the event of a fire except the front door. That's where I'm at.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening, Ron Chappell, Bow Street, Harrisburg. 2 items. A couple of years ago, I came before council and I announced the premiere of my radio show, Real Rap with Ron Chappell. Well, today we celebrate the 2nd year anniversary of the show. And because this is a Thursday, we're going to have the celebration this Monday night on the radio show. And so I'm inviting all members of council. All of you have been there except for possibly Ben. Ben, you're also invited, and also Kirk Petrosky and also Neil Grover. The doors are going to open at 7 p.m. We hope to have food and the show starts at 8 o'clock. So if you cannot be there during those hours, we will be there until 10 p.m. And so I hope you'll all come out if you're available. Okay, the second item, I'd heard on the radio news that the council was going to have a vote on, I believe, a resolution or a plan to provide $65,000 to HPD for riot gear. And I'm asking that you vote against that proposal. I think that that money could be spent in better ways, perhaps with police cameras. Right now, there's a problem with a lot of non-resident police officers patrolling the streets of Harrisburg. And you can talk to several residents, talk to many residents, and they'll tell you about the harsh way they're not only spoken at, and I said spoken at, not talked with, but spoken at and treated, okay? And also I want to remind you that there's a reason that executioners were hooded, okay? And that's so they can act without conscience, all right? You know, we have a problem right now, as it is, as I say, with interaction with these non-resident police officers. I think the money should be spent on body cameras and on more human relations training, all right? And I cannot stay for the conclusion for the rest of this meeting, but again, please remember, this Monday night, you're all invited to come to the second-year anniversary celebration.
Thank you for the invitation, Mr. Chappell.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else to my right? Okay, moving on with the agenda. Council members approve of the legislative session minutes of June 27th, 2017. Any omissions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, minutes stand as approved. Moving on to report to committee. Report from Chair Allett on the work session of July 5th, 2017. Mr. Allett, are you ready with your report?
I sure am.
Thank you.
Last night, as part of the Budget and Finance Committee, we had Resolution 72 and Resolution 70 up for discussion. I'll talk about Resolution 70 first. This is a resolution authorizing a contract with Sigma Resources for transitional management related services for IT. We've been working with Sigma for a number of months and have relied on their IT expertise to help with some migrations that have been desperately needed. This contract expands the rate and the amount of assistance Sigma is providing, which is ultimately necessary. The concern that was brought up is that we're now providing a degree of back payment due to the lapse of the previous contract. I encourage the administration to act with more urgency on contracts like this, so we're approving them in a more timely manner. However, I do encourage my colleagues to approve this resolution. Now to Resolution 72. I've not seen this much interest in a budget reallocation since I began my term on City Council, and I welcome the engagement. And I honestly hope that the engagement continues because appropriations are one of the most important aspects of our functions on City Council. This resolution is a reallocation approving a request from law enforcement for the purchase of protective gear. I've heard from a lot of people representing all sides of the issue, and in listening, which is our responsibility, I do have some concerns. Believe it or not, though, my concerns lie not just with the appropriation itself, but with what I see as a growing disconnect between law enforcement and our community. We will not be voting on this resolution tonight, and that is because, unfortunately, our time last night was cut short because of a call that the law enforcement team received that took them away from our meeting. And unfortunately, a majority of our council members weren't able to ask them questions. Also, unfortunately, law enforcement was not represented during the public comment portion of the meeting, and I do think there's things that were coming from the community that they need to hear. But I do have a request from the mayor and our chief. We have a bit of a hiatus for council coming up, and we'll return on August 29th. As I mentioned before, I'm very concerned about the disconnect that I see growing between members of our community and law enforcement. There are many voices that are struggling to be heard, and they often feel ignored. This is not a trend that should continue, and there needs to be a means of engaging members of our community, particularly those that have been involved with a number of the protests that have been going on in our capital city. Many mention fearing our local law enforcement and feeling that they are not protected by them, especially when groups come in from outside the city. Protesting is an important freedom we have as Americans bound by the First Amendment. And in our divided political landscape, this has created an outlet of expression and the ability to assemble without fear, and I think that is very important. But also just as important is the ability to be heard, and many who have expressed their point of view have not felt that way. My request is this of the mayor and our police chief. I would like them to engage in at least 2 community meetings in the course of this summer to discuss the growing discontent that some have been experiencing. In particular, how to work together when it comes to protests that occur in our city. I implore you to listen and to engage. Do not shy away from an opportunity to find common ground. I'm afraid that if you do not work to improve these relationships, future requests such as these will be met with just as much resistance, if not more, from the community. Now to the many people who reached out to me and expressed your point of view, whether via email, phone calls, or attending our recent meetings. I want you to know that you have been heard. I do have a specific message for those who have heeded the call to resist and exercise your right to protest, and that is to continue to make your voice heard. But I also plead with you to do so peacefully. Engage in dialogue with those you disagree with, and don't forget to listen in response. If you have the opportunity to attend a meeting with law enforcement, share your perspective, but don't forget to also listen. Lastly, I'll share that I've attended a number of the protests that have occurred over the course of the last several months in the city, and there have been times that I've been alarmed by those in attendance. I've even witnessed someone headed towards the Capitol steps pushing a shopping cart full of bricks, but I've also witnessed the quick response from law enforcement to act. I've been deeply saddened by the landscape we find ourselves in. The political divide has frayed existing relationships and created huge barriers among people. The discourse and the dialogue that occurs lacks civility and basic human respect. We all play a part in that, and we also have a responsibility to find ways to work together. Our protests have taken a darker turn at times, and there's certainly reason for many to be alarmed. I've observed the discussion lately on social media and around this very issue, and largely stayed out of responding, and that's because no one is actually listening to each other, but focused on talking at each other. Change happens when people are able to engage in dialogue, find common ground, and work towards common solutions. On council, we are called to do that, but that's a call that is greater than just what this body does. This concludes my committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Howlett. And we'll hear from Mr. Carl Singleton.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity. I just wanted to highlight something. We had a meeting, a community meeting, spearheaded by the mayor and administration on June 26th at Good Memorial Church, Baptist Church, the Family Life Center. And one of the things that came out of that was that there was a need for another outreach to the Department of Justice. And so we had a meeting. When I say we, I met with Mr. Ben Liu out of D.C. in the Department of Justice, the Community Relations Division. And he and I met this past Monday for several hours, and he's agreed to do several workshops talking about putting a plan together similar to the ones he led in Ferguson and in Baltimore. So that information will be forthcoming. That was derived from the June 26th meeting, which individuals, most of which were former challengers in the last primary. They were present, with the exception of Mr. Butts and Mr. Harrell. So former Mayor Thompson was present, Bishop Scrivens, just to name a few. Mr. Floyd couldn't make it, Homer Floyd, but he is engaged with that process as well, just so that we're clear that there are things proactively being done. And so I just wanted to make sure that was on the record, not as a directive from council, but something that was currently underway, which I've headed up under civic engagement portion of my title as senior advisor to the mayor.
Very good, thank you. I'm well done.
Next, we'll hear from Councilman Johnson, who's chair of the Public Safety Committee, and he will give his report on the work session July 5th.
On the work session on July 5th, on public safety, we talked about 5 different resolutions, Resolution 51, Resolution 56, Resolution 58, Resolution 59, and Resolution 60. Resolution 51 was a resolution approving an agreement with Yarnell Security Systems for installation of servicing of a video security system at Reservoir Park, peeling all inconsistent ordinances or parts of ordinances. This basically, with this contract, the purchase and installation costs totaled $9,972, and then we'll have an annual service charge of $756. We are looking to put cameras at 3 locations within the park, which are around the band shell, the basketball courts, and the mansion, to provide more security needs for securing those assets. Resolution 56, it was a resolution approving a Comcast business service agreement for internet and phone services at Reservoir Park Mansion. Basically, this was in connection to the video security system to make sure we had adequate amount of internet to support the security system, and to move our phone services to Comcast as well for overall better package deal. And the monthly recurring fees for this would be $249.70. Resolution 58 was a resolution approving a Comcast business service agreement for internet services at the 4th and Emerald Street Park to operate the park's video surveillance system. This isn't similar to what we're doing at Reservoir Park, adding cameras to the 4th and Radnor for better security purposes. Installation fees for this project would be $1,353 with a monthly recurring fee of $114.85. Resolution 59 was a resolution approving a Comcast business service order agreement for phone services for park maintenance. So basically what we're trying to do is consolidate our phone services through Comcast to get more or less better package deal as a city. So moving the park maintenance phones over as well made sense as we were moving our internet and phone services agreement with our other contracts as well. And the monthly occurring fee for the park maintenance phone services will be $99.85 with installation fees of $108, and that's a one-time cost. Resolution 60 was a resolution approving receipt of funding from Tri-County Community Action for the purchase and installation of a video security at 4th and Emerald Street Park and approving an agreement with Yarnell Security Systems for servicing of the same. For the 4th and Emerald Street Park, through Tri-Community Action, they received a grant where they were willing to use their grant to purchase the security cameras for the park. And that purchase would in total the amount of $5,942, which the city would not be responsible for the camera or installation fees. We would just be responsible for the annual service charges, which will be approximately $408. And I would urge my council members to support these 5 different resolutions. And that concludes my public safety report.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Moving on to report from Chair Majors. On the work session of July 5th, 2017, Mr. Majors, are you ready with your report?
Yes, I am, and thank you, President. Thank you, President Williams. During the work session, we met to consider 3 bills, Resolution 64 of 2017, Resolution 65, and Resolution 69. Resolution 64, excuse me, is a resolution approving a professional services agreement with Daewoo Engineering to provide engineering services. Let me make sure I have the right thing. Yeah, provide engineering services for the Mulder Square project. In total, the cost is a $295,000 project to do design, engineering, and construction services for that project. And I'm asking my members to support this moving forward, but we also are encouraging that as this process goes forward and the public meetings are supposed to continue to occur, that in the legislation that there's 2 that are being requested. We ask that if 2 is not enough, that the group is willing to consider more. This project is a very significant revitalization effort in the 13th and Dairy Street area in Mulder Square, and we also want to ensure that the public and the residents of that community have an opportunity to participate in that revitalization. When folks are coming in, and this is probably one of many other contracts that have come before us on this project, that we're going to exceed our minority participation goals if possible. And we want to make sure that residents that are in that area have an opportunity to participate in the revitalization of their neighborhood. Next was Resolution 65 of 2017, a resolution authorizing the city of Harrisburg to enter into a master lease agreement with Enterprise for fleet management of our city fuel powered non-pursuit non-specialty vehicle fleet. We heard from Hillary Green, our procurement for the city of Harrisburg. As many of you know, we have an aging fleet of vehicles in the city of Harrisburg, and we're looking to look at a new way of ensuring that we're able to turn over our vehicles and allow that all of our employees that use these vehicles to have vehicles that are functioning, and overall will look to save the city some money moving forward. Lastly, it was Resolution 69 a resolution authorizing the City of Harrisburg to negotiate and enter into a master service agreement for engineering and environmental services with Barton and Lagudas for a conceptual plan for DEP to do a general permit for our proposed compost facility. There were two things that, through our discussion with the mayor and Neil, that needed to be completed before our application could be submitted, which was an erosion sediment control plan and a leachate treatment plan. This is time sensitive. We need to have everything completed and in by September 15th. So I'm encouraging my fellow members to vote affirmative on this resolution. And with that, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Majors. Moving on back to Mr. Johnson. He did forget one of his resolutions.
It was a busy night for the Public Safety Committee. So the last resolution was Resolution 66 of 2017, which was a resolution authorizing the City of Harrisburg to accept a financing proposal from Santander Bank for the purpose of financing the lease purchase of two 2017 Ford Escape SE four-wheel drive vehicles for use by City Codes Department. Due to the hiring of 3 new code officers, two new code officers would need cars to begin their positions. They're currently working for the city. So in order to do that, we would need to lease out 2 cars, 2 Ford Escapes at $23,225 each. And through this lease, it will be a 5-year commitment with an annual payment of $4,915. And the reason why we are doing this separately and not adding that to the master fleet agreement is because the time that it will take in order to execute that contract, and knowing that the code officers are here now working for the city, wanted to get out to begin to execute their job. So that's why it was a necessity to make this purchase. And we will be making this purchase through CoStars, which is a purchasing agreement, which allows us to get a better price than if we were to go straight out to the market and search for a car. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. We're moving on to report from Chair Williams on the work session of July 5th, 2017. The Administration Committee met to discuss 2 bills in the work session. Resolution 63, 2017 is a resolution approving a lease agreement with Eastern University for use of a portion of the basement of the Martin Luther King Jr. building for classrooms and administrative offices to support its course offerings and degree programs in Harrisburg. Present to speak on behalf of Eastern University were Wesley Brunton, who's the site coordinator, and Jeff Cromis, who is the executive director. Eastern University is a co-educational Christian university. 18 months ago, the administration was contacted by Eastern University with an offer to utilize the unoccupied space that was previously held by City Council chambers. Their purpose was to find a location within the city to provide quality education for city residents. While these negotiations regarding the leasing of city government facilities, City Council was never included in the meetings. Eastern University offered to lease the basement for a period of 10 years and to do $600,000 in renovations, which will serve as the rent for the entire lease term. Renovations will include a creation of a lounge and reception area, a large workroom, which the Harrisburg Police could use for emergency conference area, creation of 4 classrooms, new floors, ceilings, and upgrades to the basement bathrooms. These completed renovations will be within a year. In consideration of the city agreeing to the lease, Eastern University is offering the usage of the lounge and kitchen area to city employees, as well as a 20% tuition discount. Although this appears to be a positive opportunity to upgrade the area of city government, council members had several concerns regarding this leasing, and therefore the Administration Committee will hold additional meetings, and this will not be placed on the agenda. Number 2 was Bill 6, which is an ordinance for the purposes of reauthorizing within the city of Harrisburg an area designated as a neighborhood improvement district designating a nonprofit corporation to administer the same, accepting a business plan for the district and authorizing assessments for the operation thereof and meeting all other requirements under the Neighborhood Improvement District Act for continuation of the same and repealing all inconsistent ordinance or parts of ordinances. Present was Todd Vanderwood. He's the executive director, and Robert Porter. He's the president. This resolution is to address whether to reauthorize the Harrisburg Downtown Improvement District to continue for 5 years through December 2022. The HDID has done tremendous improvements to the downtown area. Among those are placed additional security cameras within the areas, cleaning of sidewalks, power washing the sidewalks, planting and watering pots. They created a safety substation, add additional bike racks. They planted 8 new tree pots. And they had that dynamite summer last year. I think everybody knows about that with the dinosaurs. And that tripled the visitors into our city. Recently, as you all may know, they sponsored the St. Patrick's Day Parade. And they hosted a fundraiser for the Harrisburg Fire Department, which was the duck race a couple weeks ago, which took in $4,000 for the fire department. And throughout the city now, the Harrisburg Downtown Improvement District has placed ducks. I'm sure all of you have seen all the ducks, the different ducks around the areas. Harrisburg City Council supports the HDID, and I look forward, and they do as well, to continuing services and the benefits. So we couldn't vote on this, and I couldn't put it on the agenda today, but we will address this at the September 12, 2017 legislative session, and we will do a vote because it has to be out in the public for another 45 days. And that concludes my report for the Administration Committee. We're moving on to ordinance for first reading, which we had none. We're moving now for ordinance for amendment. Bill 8, 2017, Mr. Petrosky.
Bill 8 of 2017 was moved by Mr. Baltimore, seconded by Ms. Williams. It's an ordinance appropriating community development block grant funds from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development for fiscal year 2017 and authorizing expenditure of such funds.
Mr. Baltimore could not be here, so I am going to sit in for him. We are doing an amendment under the public service activities. Did I give you have a copy of those amendments?
You want me to read it?
Pardon me?
You're going to do the amendments, or
No, I wanted you to do this. Or do you want me to do this?
thought Ben was going to read the
Okay,
amendments?
that's fine. You can do that.
Right. So make a motion for it?
Yeah, you can do that.
I'll make a motion for amendment to Bill 8 of 2017. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the proposed amendment would reduce the public safety amount by $15,000, and that would be to $90,000. It would also reduce the green space cleanup amount by $10,000 to $43,110. And then it would add a line item to add funding to the Heinz Medical Center of $25,000. And that concludes the amendment.
Thank you, Mr.
Can we just put it on the record that for the purposes of the legislation, you are amending line 38 on public safety, $90,000.
And 45.
You're amending line 45, $43,110, and adding your line 46, Heinz Medical Center, $25,000.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions or comments on the amendments? Please call the vote.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore? Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Ms. Hodges?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
The amendment carries.
Okay, moving on for ordinance for final passage, we have Bill 7 of 2017.
Bill 7 of 2017 was moved by Mr. Baltimore, seconded by Ms. Williams. It's an ordinance appropriating Home Investment Partnership Program funds from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development for fiscal year 2017 and authorizing expenditure of such funds.
Any questions or comments on Bill 17, council members? Hearing none, please call the vote.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore? Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Ms. Hodges?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Bill 7 passes.
Thank you. Moving on to Bill 8.
Bill 8, as amended, of 2017 was moved by Mr. Baltimore, second by Ms. Williams. It is an ordinance appropriating community development block grant funds from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development for fiscal year 2017 and authorizing expenditure of such funds.
Any questions, comments, council members on Bill 8? Hearing none, please call the vote.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore? Ms. Daniels? Ms. Hodges?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Bill 8, as amended, passes.
Thank you. Moving on to Bill 9.
Bill 9 of 2017 was moved by Mr. Baltimore, second by Ms. Williams. It's an ordinance appropriating emergency solutions grant program funds from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development for fiscal year 2017 and authorizing expenditure of such funds.
Questions or comments? Please call the vote.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore? Ms. Daniels? Ms. Hodges?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Bill 9 passes.
Thank you. Moving on to resolutions. Resolution 51.
Resolution 51 of 2017 was moved by Mr. Johnson, second by Mr. Allett. It's a resolution approving an agreement with Yarnell Security Systems for installation of servicing of a video security system at Reservoir Park. That was just, it's not supposed to be there. Yeah, the other part.
Yeah, yeah. That line's not supposed to be there?
It's just
not-
after Reservoir, after.
Yeah, sure,
it was a
that's
couple
fine.
days.
Any questions or comments, council members, on Resolution 51? Hearing none, please call the vote.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore? Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Ms. Hodges?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Resolution 51 passes.
Thank you. Resolution 56, please.
Resolution 56 of 2017 was moved by Ms. Williams, seconded by Mr. Allett. It's a resolution approving a Comcast Business Services agreement for internet and phone services at the Reservoir Park Mansion.
Any questions or comments? Please call the vote.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore? Ms. Daniels? Ms. Hodges?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Resolution 56 passes.
Thank you. Moving on to Resolution 58.
Resolution 58 of 2017 was moved by Ms. Hodges, seconded by Ms. Daniels. It's a resolution approving a Comcast Business Services Agreement for Internet Services at the 4th and Emerald Street Park to operate the park's video surveillance system.
Questions or comments? Please call the votes.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore? Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Ms. Hodges?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Resolution 58 passes.
Thank you. Moving on to Resolution 59.
Resolution 59 of 2017 was moved by Mrs. Hodges, second by Mr. Allett. It's a resolution approving a Comcast Business Service Order Agreement for phone services for park maintenance.
Any questions, council members? 59. Please call the vote.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore? Ms. Daniels? Ms. Hodges?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Resolution 59 passes.
Moving on to Resolution 60.
Resolution 60 of 2017 was moved by Ms. Hodges, second by Mr. Majors. It's a resolution approving receipt of funding from Tri-County Community Action for the purchase of an installation of a video security at 4th and Emerald Street Park and approving an agreement with Yarnell Security Systems for servicing of same.
Any questions or comments, council members? Hearing none, please call the vote.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore? Ms. Daniels? Ms. Hodges?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Resolution 60 passes.
Thank you. Moving on to Resolution 64.
Resolution 64 of 2017 was moved by Mr. Majors, seconded by Ms. Daniels. It is a resolution approving a professional service agreement with Dawood Engineering Incorporated to provide engineering services for Mulder Square.
Any questions or comments, council members? Please call the vote.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore? Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Ms. Hodges?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Resolution 64 passes.
Thank you. Moving on to Resolution 65.
Resolution 65 of 2017 was moved by Mr. Majors, seconded by Ms. Daniels. It's a resolution authorizing the City of Harrisburg to enter into a master equity lease agreement with Enterprise FM Trust and Service Agreement with Enterprise Fleet Management Incorporated for a vehicle management program that will improve the overall maintenance and replacement of the city's fuel-powered, non-pursuit, non-specialty vehicle fleet.
Are there any questions or comments? Please call the vote.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore? Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Ms. Hodges?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Resolution 65 passes.
Thank you. Moving on to Resolution 66.
Resolution 66 of 2017 was moved by Mr. Johnson, second by Ms. Williams. It's a resolution authorizing the City of Harrisburg to accept a financing proposal from Santander Bank N.A. for purpose of financing the lease purchase of two 2017 Ford Escape SC four-wheel drive vehicles for use by the City Codes Department.
Any questions or comments, council members? Please call the vote.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore? Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Ms. Hodges?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Resolution 66 passes.
Moving on to Resolution 69.
Resolution 69 of 2017 was moved by Mr. Majors, seconded by Ms. Daniels. It's a resolution authorizing the City of Harrisburg to negotiate and enter into a Master of Services Agreement for engineering and environmental services for Barton Laguitas DPC for a conceptual plan of PA Department of Environmental Protection, DEP, WMGR 025 General Permit Application and related services.
Any questions or comments, council members? Please call the vote.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore? Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Ms. Hodges?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Resolution 69 passes.
Thank you. Moving on to Resolution 70.
And Resolution 70 of 2017 was moved by Ms. Williams, seconded by Mr. Allett. It's a resolution authorizing the City of Harrisburg to negotiate and enter into a professional service contract with Sigma Resources for transitional management-related services within Bureau of Information Technology.
Any questions or comments, council members? Hearing none, please call the vote.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore? Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Ms. Hodges?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Resolution 70 passes.
And council members, forgive me, I did want to mention that there's a representative from Enterprise. If you would like to ask additional questions of him, he will be available after the meeting. Moving on to old business. Is there any old business, council members?
I guess it's a little business.
Okay.
I would just encourage people to voice your concerns in regards to the Eastern University, not necessarily concerns, but questions or, oh, do you like it, don't like it? I want to also ask to see if the administration, I'll also talk to Kirk, if we can get a copy of the lease online. And that's the only way people can kind of read about it, to kind of see different opportunities, that is being offered, and people can kind of, share that opinion with the administration or send comments to our city clerk or send us an email. I did create like a Facebook post today, and it brought about pretty good, open conversation about it. I think it's a very, very unique opportunity, and it's a lot of things to evaluate, but I think it's good to discuss, especially if it's something that we move forward. We wanted to make sure that we have that community buy-in.
Okay.
And it's a public document now,
Yeah.
even though it's not an executed lease,
Mhm.
so we can get that up online.
All right, thank you.
Does council want it on the council webpage, on the city's webpage?
City.
And please keep in mind, I did mention that we will have another discussion regarding that on the 29th of August. At that time, I would ask that the administration maybe put something out for that notice for us, along with, to remind people that it is a Christian university, and that one of the specifics is that the individuals do and will be required to take religious courses.
I will make sure that there's a notice that goes out
Okay.
related to that. And the Law Bureau is providing the council with a legal memo as requested by Ms. Daniels on some of the legal issues that surround this particular
Okay.
lease. And it is out in front than many other things are out there.
Thank you, Mr. Grover.
And also the old business. I know we had some people here from the 19th and Market area. We don't have anyone here from public safety, and I'll follow up with the chief, but I want to kind of get this on record. I know a while ago, probably like 2 years ago, we applied for a COPS grant, and through that grant, I think it was supposed to be an addition of either three to five police officers with a focus on community-oriented policing. They're supposed to be almost like a community policing unit. So I know the original delay was we had to hire new officers, and we had to train them to kind of, first know how to be officers, and, that the style of community policing that we were going for. I kind of want to see where we're at with that progress, to kind of see, first thing to make sure that we're in compliance with the grant that we received, and to see which ways we can kind of, get going with those community policing efforts as well.
So are you looking for just a meeting, or are you looking for the mayor's office or the police bureau to submit something?
Yeah, just to see, just kind of just a status update on the training of the officers, and have they been, because last time we talked about it a couple months ago, where, the officers, they weren't fully trained to kind of be independent on their, to serve within that role, fulfilling that grant requirement. So I kind of want to see where they're at with that, the kind of, there's different initiatives, whether if that's, community schools or whatever it may be, but I'm sure there were certain requirements under that grant, to kind of fulfill that they're meeting, they're doing what we said they were going to do.
My office will follow up with both the mayors and the police bureau about the status of that and get a report back to you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mr. Grover. Is that all, Mr. Johnson?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other old business? Any new business?
Yeah.
Ms. Daniels?
Thank you. Harrisburg area now, along with the AKs, the American Association of University Women, the League of Women Voters, the YWCA of Greater Harrisburg, and will be having a free viewing of Equal Means Equal this July 25th at Midtown Cinema. Doors open at 6:15. The movie is free. There will be a panel discussion afterwards. If there's no charge, but if you are interested, you can donate women's sanitary products that will go to Harrisburg's homeless women.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Well, I just want to wish everyone a very, very safe and happy summer. We will be back in session on August 29th, 2017 at 5:30 here in council chambers. And at that, they have an adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.